I was inspired by Elon Musk, and no joke, like the very first Iron Man movie, I was like, I want to go do business because these guys seem like they know what's up. I actually wanted to go like into aerospace. I wanted to build rockets and like.
Hi, Sail with Fire podcast listeners. Welcome to another episode of this awesome podcast. This is where we take our failures and talk about the fires that ended up becoming catalysts to change. I'm your podcast host, Phoenix Ha, CEO and co-founder of my favorite first-party data attribution optimization platform, AdBeacon. And today we have a very special guest. His name is Sanjay Jenkins. Sanjay, say hi.
Hello, how's it going? Thank you so much for having me. I'm actually super stoked to be on the other side of this experience.
Yes, I was just on the Workload podcast with you, and that was such an honor. And now we're switching seats. Now I get to grill you and ask you all these questions. But before we do that, let me give the formal introduction to those who don't know Sanjay just yet. He's a true e-commerce expert who's been helping Shopify store owners and agency operators leverage landing pages to scale their businesses. So he's run 2 agencies, launched a successful pet toy subscription box in college, and even took Buff City Soaps e-commerce from $280,000 to $3.7 million in just 10 months. Sanjay's been part of scaling brands from 6 to 9 figures, and he's passionate about sharing that. And from a successful Kickstarter to college to scaling businesses using organic strategies, Sanjay knows what it takes to grow and help others do the same. And now at Replo. Welcome to the pod, man.
We're here. Thank you so much for having me. It's genuinely a great intro. I appreciate you plugging all the deep cuts, actually. There's like so many interesting stories in there, so I appreciate you sharing.
I took your bio and condensed it, but I know there's so much more to it, and that's why we're here. Also, we love to give the informal intro, but Sanjay and I are like 2 ships passing in the night because apparently we're like at every event, but we never have ever took a step to talk to each other directly. Like I've known about you, you've known about me, and now we've met, and I feel like it's just a friendship that's blossomed, but it's been awesome. Being on your podcast was awesome.
Yeah, no, it's so funny. Like we've probably both been like 150 feet away from each other, and it's just like, like you see someone from across the room, you try to like get over there, and then they're gone on the other side. It's just we'll make it happen soon. I feel it coming. It's brewing. It's gonna happen soon.
It's just a slow wave, just like a bye.
It's right.
Well, what's funny is actually we uncovered that you are friends with a lot of my friends. I didn't know if you knew that Chase Mosetti is actually my cousin. That's not a joke.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Like I've been texting it every day. Like I actually didn't realize that was a real thing. That's actually mind blowing.
But so for those who don't know, Chase Mosetti, who was also on this podcast, when he was on this podcast, he and I did not know we were cousins. We had no idea. And then through a lot of digging through my sister's like, wait a minute, let's look at the family tree. And you found like the Mordar, which is my Iranian side, with the Mohseni side. And we're cousins. We're not that distant either. So wild. Yeah, Chase is part of Creative OS. He's one of the founders. And then he also works as CMO at heatmap.com. So a little plug to those guys, but also just in the CRO space. We've got the Replo representative here today. And what's fun about this is as much as you are part of Replo, you are Sanjay Jenkins ahead of everything else, which is why this podcast exists. We really, really want to focus on the failures, and because okay, great, you're successful. We know that. Everybody on this podcast, the prerequisite is to be quote unquote successful. But for us to get to that point, there's got to be a lot of failures, and we'll get into that, but before we do, we'll shimmy on over to my barbecue question. But I don't know too much about your personal life. However, if you do have a family member or partner or whoever, and we're at a barbecue and they pull me and they're like, Phoenix, they need you to meet Sanjay, how would they describe you and what would they say that you do for work?
Oh, so good. Oh, man. This happens so often, actually. How would they describe me? Eccentric probably is like the first word that they would use. And then the second thing that or like my girlfriend usually says is that I just kind of like know stuff. I read it just for every single scrap of paper or tweet or anything that I can get my hand on, and then I will go deep in rabbit holes. So, eccentric and then just like knower of things is the two things. And what I do for work, this is back when I like sold soap on the internet. It was like, oh, he sells soap on the internet, and now it's like, oh, he's like in tech sales, or like kind of had to change for what it is depending on who it is. But yeah, I mean, it's like I think default's like, oh, he just like does marketing for businesses. And I'm like, yeah, that's sort of it. That's it is what it is. It depends on the room. Sometimes I can be like, yeah, like I'm head of growth at a software company, that's YC backed. Other times I'm just like, yeah, like we build websites.
You're so spot on with like reading the room and understanding what you want to say. Because some people will be like, "What do you do for work?" I'm like, I work in marketing." Sometimes you keep it super high level, and they're like, "Oh, okay," and they're like, "What kind of marketing?" I'm like, "Oh, digital marketing." And then you start to inch your way through. But then if you've got someone who's a nerd like us, then we're like,
Yeah,
"No way, you do that? Oh, shit, I do that too." And
yeah.
it gets fun, but I always find it funny the way that our partners or family members describe us. Like, I always make this joke that my mom thinks I work at Facebook. It's always like if something goes wrong. And my favorite, I don't know if you get this, is people from high school or hit you up, or like from college will hit you up and be like, "Yo, I really need your help. I need some marketing help." And
All the time.
you have to take the call, right? You have to take the call because it's the right thing to do. And that's part of our ethos and core values, which you and I very much align with. But you also know it comes with a heavy breath where you're like, what do you need? Do you even need this? I will help you. But marketing is a very broad topic. So,
This is actually something I've struggled with over the last few years because I've had, like, I mean, I always say yes, always answer the phone call, especially if it's like people that I've gone, I grew up with. Like, I love those folks. But 9 times out of 10, it's like you give them all this advice and none of it, most of it doesn't actually get listened to, or if it does, you're like, oh, it didn't work. And I'm like, well, you spent like $10 on this app. Like, I don't know if it's like, you're like looking at it correctly. And it's a really painful thing. And I've had to like figure out new ways to kind of show up and be present for these folks because I want to help them. But it's also like emotionally draining. And it's something I've always struggled with. And it's gotten worse over, I think, the last couple of years. As I've started to like, as I've started to put out more content and people actually see it. And it's like, oh, like I can go hit my boy up, and I want people to do that. But yeah, sometimes it's like, I've been on calls like for 12 hours today. I don't want to talk about marketing. I know.
it's super cool that you recognize that, because I do recognize like the give versus receive. I actually want to get tattoos. I've been wanting this for a long time. It didn't work out. My tattoo artist kept bailing on me, which I feel like is like a sign. But I want on my inside of my hand, one hand says give, the outside says receive, and on the other side it says give on the outside and receive. Because you have to fill your cup in order to pour into others. And I can tell you like to give, which is a beautiful thing, but often what happens is people don't realize like they're taking something to get something. It's 100% true. And even people are like super apologetic. They're like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like, I'm so sorry I'm bothering you." But, and the way I look at things, if anyone's listening in on this podcast and you're new to marketing, or you're going into a space like real estate or law or whatever it may be that you need advice on, your friends, like, come in with direct questions.
Heal.
Like, come in prepared, because like I guarantee, like, Sanjay, you're probably gonna be like, "Okay, 1, 2, 3, prep the questions. I got you." But
Yeah.
then when it's like this conversation, it's almost like therapy. Yeah, not into it. But I'm the same way. I've set some severe boundaries. My husband and I talk about this all the time. He's not a boundary guy. I'm a boundary person to a fault. And you start to protect your neck, a little bit.
You have to. I mean, it's and I think, you and I both do really intense work that requires every part of our being, our mental capacity, our focus, our creativity. And we still have to be people. Like, we still have to show up for our significant others. We still have to show up for our family members. And we want to show up for the people that want to help. Like, it's like, help me help you kind of thing. Um, I do have this standing rule though. I don't know if you're like this, but if you send me a voice memo, if there isn't a transcript associated with it, like, thankfully Apple like gives you, am I allowed to swear on this? I think this is work. I'm not fucking listening to that thing. This is not gonna do it. I'm sorry. Like type that stuff out. But like if you give me something that's like, hey, like I've got, these 3 questions, I will give you the bullet points. I'll connect you with the people. Like my game is game. Like I had to fight a lot of battles to get to where I got and to have the knowledge and the Rolodex that I have now. But also I'll give it freely. Especially if you're like, one of the day ones, like I don't mind sharing. It's just like, just help me help you. And don't send me a voice memo, please.
I'm fucking dead because there's 2 people who send voice memos out, and I'm calling you out, and I hope this becomes a clip. 2 people that always send voice memos is Chase Moseni and Rabba Rahil, okay? You guys keep sending them. Thank God there's transcripts. Thank God I love you, right? But yeah, 100%, like, I don't know about you, but I have maybe like 50 text messages that are unread, and I hate it. I hate it so much because, of course, I want to get back to you. But then when there's voice memos, it's just like, when do I have a chance to listen to this, guys? Like, when? When do you think that's on the toilet? I'm not going to do that because everyone else can hear your voice memo, and I don't know what the hell you're going to say. So, yeah, we can go on.
I've finally trained Chase not to send me voice memos. Like Chase does not send me voice memos, and that's because I just don't listen to him. I just don't respond to him.
I'm done. I'm dead. And mind you, like, for people listening, like, we're all building, we're all grinding super hard. Like, this is such a cool group of people, not only that have been on this podcast, but like, this is a big reason why, Sanjay, I'm so happy that I was on your podcast first, got to know you even more, and then excited to have you on here because now we can have meaningful, deep conversations. I think depth is definitely ingrained in your character, which is why we are going to roll right into the fail with fire moments. And I shared a little with you, I think, off record of what has happened to me in my past, and just a little glimpse, and it turns me into who I am today. And I really would love to learn more about who you are, what failures led to the fires that were catalysts to change for you, and walk us through that because I'm just all ears.
Yeah, there's a couple, and we'll see how this goes. I will do anything but cry, but I will tell you some cool stuff.
Okay, I'm here.
The first thing, so I'm Indian. I was born in India. My parents and I moved to the United States right after I turned 4, and my dad's a doctor. So I'm sure you could kind of guess where this might go. Like my parents wanted me to be a doctor, and when I was 18. I was inspired by Elon Musk, and no joke, like in the very first Iron Man movie, I was like, I want to go do business because these guys seem like they know what's up. I actually wanted to go like into aerospace. I wanted to build rockets and like essentially do what SpaceX does now, but ended up in marketing is the whole other thing. But I just knew, hey, I can't be a doctor. And I told my parents that, I didn't get to any of the programs that they wanted me to get into. And then I ended up like, it's funny. I actually got into like USC, into their business school, and my parents were like, "We can't send you there. It's like some rinky-dink community college in California." And I grew up in Missouri, a small town Missouri. They had no idea what USC was, and I give them shit for it now to this day, which is the funniest.
The best. Wait, for people listening, like, it's the best business college. If not an Ivy League, it is the best. Okay, continue.
And they were like, you got to go to an Ivy League. Like if you're not going to be a doctor, like you at least have to go to an Ivy League. Didn't get into a single one. But I got into USC. They're like, you can't go to this school. So I went to the University of Missouri, Kansas City, and UMKC is their flagship program is a 6-year medical school program where you don't have to take the MCAT, and you basically like do undergrad in 2 years and go straight into med school. My little brother, who's 20, he's in that program right now. He basically graduated his undergrad over the summer, and he's in med school at this very moment. So you can guess which one of the sons actually gets a little bit more preferential to you. It's a joke, but there's a little bit of truth.
You 100%. Got it. Got it.
Honestly, it's the hair. But so like I was like, I'm in college. I'm like, hey, I'm not going to do this festival thing, and they're like, cool, great. We hate you. We're not going to talk to you. And I didn't talk to my parents for about 3 years. Because I was like, I'm going to do business. I'm going to figure out my path. I'm going to like, and I'm going to give you some like really first world problems because I grew up pretty privileged. My dad was like, this is 2014 and the Jaguar F-Type had just come out. And he was like, oh man, if you go to med school, like, in a couple of years, I'll buy that car for you. I'll buy that car for you. Very privileged, like place to be, recognize that. And I was like, you know what? It's just not worth it for me. Like, this is like one of my dream cars. I'll figure it out on my own. 10 years later, after depreciation did its work and I built like my own path in marketing and e-commerce, I do own a Jaguar F-Type. I bought it all by myself. But again, $100,000 of depreciation did its work. So that's always nice. But yeah, I mean, that was like the biggest thing. And like my parents and I have a really good relationship now. I was 25 years old when my dad first told me that he was proud of me. And that was after, you know, so many different things where, I tried to start a business. It didn't work. I really didn't understand, I graduated college. We sold my subscription box company that I had in college to the University of Arkansas. The people that took it over burned it to the ground in literally 2 months. Like there's a lot of like kind of meandering there, but eventually, like, I think essentially 10 years later, like I'm just grateful that one, I have a relationship and a healthy one at that with my parents. I'm really grateful. Like they eventually came around. They see that I love this game, I love what I do, and I'm not terrible at it. And then two, that I'm not terrible at something. Like I actually like really, really like, I'm a machine that operates off of spite quite a bit. Like revenge is kind of like my default state. And I'm really grateful that kind of still there was like enough positive application of that energy to allow me a chance to build the skills that I have, to meet the people that I've met, to be able to have done the things that I've done in the last few years. But if we're going to start with anything, that's like probably like my core like failure. And there's a bunch of others that I'd love to talk to you about, but that was like, that's the one that like still keeps me up every now and then. Like I never want to go back down that path, but I'm glad that I went through that crucible.
Yeah, you said a couple cool things. Also, some things we'll dive into. This also always low key becomes like a therapy session, which I love. But the first one is you said that I identify your fire, sorry, is revenge. You just said that. You're like, revenge is that superpower. And that used to be mine. I think, whatever that is, needs to be powerful enough. I have this strong belief that you derive your power from something. Right, you derive your power from good, you can derive your power from evil, you can derive your power from revenge, you can derive your power from competition within yourself or others, whatever it may be. Revenge is an interesting thing because I relate to what you say so much. You're Indian, I'm Chinese. So I was supposed to be a doctor. I don't know if you know that. I was pre-med and I failed tremendously. So I was part of like this Chef Pep program at CSUN. I couldn't get into any college because my grades were just trash in high school. Was never really that great of a student, but I had a lot of promise. And I'm also the first generation here. And my family, they're all very successful, very smart. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be something great, but I left college. I was just not doing well. And mentally was not doing well either. I had a friend that unfortunately was shot to death when I was in college. And those things kind of shape you, right? And, it made me closer with my mom because I ended up moving back home for a little bit. I stopped college, all of that. And I can't even imagine going through what I did without my parents. Like you said that you didn't speak to your dad for 3 years. That's insane. Like a lot could have happened in that 3 years of just feeling really alone and empty because all you want is like the acceptance of your parents, the love of your parents. Acceptance is the biggest thing. Being proud, for him to say it was 25 or 26
When
for
I was
the first
25, yeah.
time. I think that like my grandparents never said I love you. That's not really what we do. And when they do say it, and you're also in American culture. American culture is very different, right? And we're in this like a weird straddling position. I'll speak for the both of us, where it's like, okay, I am American, was born here, at least I was. I understand the customs, which is polite, speaking your mind in terms of like how you feel, bucking the system, doing what you love to do for work. And then you've got this fundamental side of your family that's like, who the fuck gives a shit if you like what you do for work? Like, put money away and we can feed your family, right? And just walk me through where your head was at in those 3 years where you weren't speaking.
Yeah. I think one of the last things my mom ever said to me, which was looking back, actually pretty good feedback, but at the time I didn't like it, was, "You're not gonna be Mark Zuckerberg." And I was like, "No, I'll show you." Um, and I was like really just sad, because I love my parents, and I'm really grateful that, you know, we have a great relationship now, after going through all that, but, um, felt very, very lonely. Like we didn't have much other family in the United States. So, like, the people that I had around me were like my friends that I either grew up with or the people that I was in college with. And it was just like, it was painful to see, I think, a lot of my peers get guidance and support from their parents. And I was just like kind of fighting this battle by myself. And it also just like, it was just like, you know what? I'm gonna figure out how to be good at this. And it was truly like, I think the thing that really defines that period of my life was just like just being relentless. I think I had to be. It was like it wasn't like a haha, like I'm gonna be relentless. It was more so like, this is my only option. Like I have to let this consume me. Thankfully, it's stuff that I enjoyed, um, or I like, came to enjoy, and that saved me. That's all I had to kind of hold myself together at that point in time, and um, got lucky. Like, I think there's a huge aspect of like, you know, like I'm a, you know, believe in higher powers and such, and I prayed a lot, and I also think I just got lucky during that period of time. Like, um, it could have gone a lot of different ways. I couldn't have made, maybe I didn't make it, or maybe I'd have 10 more years of toil. Who knows? But I got lucky, and I'm grateful for that. But yeah, I was just lonely. I was just sad all the time, and I just poured myself into my work because I wasn't sad when I was doing that.
Isn't it funny? It's like a cool distraction. You're like, at least I'm doing this one right. I'm gonna dig
Yeah,
in, and like, this is no knock on the Jenkins family, but which is not a very Indian last name. I will say that. But
you want to hear the story? You want to hear the story?
yeah, I mean, I do. 1 second, but I
Yeah.
will say this. I think I know the answer, but does your family regret not talking to you now? Or are they like,
They do
no, it
now.
was the right thing?
No, no, no. They come around and they've apologized for a lot, and I was surprised by this actually. I mean, in the last couple of years too, like they've actually apologized for how that time of our lives was handled. My dad, especially, like, he was like super reserved growing up, and just to see him kind of open up and like explain his side of it and how he's grown since then, I think it's been really great. And I see this growth in them reflected in how they treat my brother,
Yeah.
which is like a world of difference. And for that, like, if I had to take some arrows for my little brother, like, cool. Like,
Yeah.
it was all worth.
I feel that. I'm an only child, but yeah, I feel that. It's like, yeah, I feel that hardcore. And like, also what's cool too is you decided and made a decision. Like, a lot of people in your position will find success or will see money and then go, you know what? I did this by myself. I don't need you. You left me. And you start to have this hardened, calloused heart. And instead, I think it was pretty obvious in how you described it. You still had this yearning for love and like your family, but you still wanted that and you were open to it, even though you knew they were making mistakes, even though revenge was your fuel. Love is more important because they're your family. They're your ride or dies. They have to be. And sometimes they need to figure it out on the way. But tell me about Jenkins. Who's Sanjay Jenkins?
So when my dad was born in India, there was a white Welsh doctor in India, and that's who delivered my dad. And his name was Xavier Jenkins. And my grandfather was like, I want my son, my father, to be a successful doctor like this guy. So he just copied and pasted it to my dad. So right now there is a 5'4", number third highest producing general robotic surgeon in the country, in just north of Tampa. His name's Xavier Jenkins. That's my dad, and that's how we got the Jenkins name. And what's funny is I'm South Indian too, and people from South India, say I'm from Kerala, like there's a lot of Christians in that community, and they always have like basically two first like white Christian names. So it's like Joseph Joel, is like a really common name, but I'm Hindu, and like, you know, Jenkins. So that's like the other set of questions. Sanjay is a North Indian name, so I'm like all sorts of like rule breaking happening just in my name alone. But yeah, that's how I got the name.
I was about to say, I was like, oh, it's a lot of crossover here.
Yeah, yeah. That's a bit of like mix up happening there, but here we are.
Yes. But here we are, man. Here we are. And you said something really great where you felt like there was this underlying tone with some founders or people in the space that are successful because they have this obsessive nature, almost like addicts, right? And I noticed that in you. You said that I forget what the exact word was, but I think it might have been obsessive. Like you just went in and you had to get it done. It's also a survival tactic. Like there's no other out. And for me, it's like obsession, not driven by anything, but just answers for myself. For you, it seems like a couple different things, but like, what do you think? Do you feel like you have that addictive personality? Do you think that that's, yeah, yeah?
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. Like, you gotta keep me away from stuff sometimes. But I love I don't know, I was just wired this way. I was like, I get super, super into things. And once there's like this like really high activation energy of like me being interested in something, or it's like medium, it's actually not that high. But like once I get to that activation energy, like I will know everything about it. And I have to. And it's like this like inner compulsion. I was a spelling bee kid and I was a geography bee kid. And it wasn't because I was good at spelling or like I understood like the frameworks of like how words exist, like etymology and stuff like that. But it was actually just because I brute force memorized things.
Yeah.
And that was like really interesting to me. That was really fun for me. So yeah, I mean I think it's just like if I latch onto something, I'm gonna go deep. I'm gonna try to figure it out. And then like I think after a few cycles I just like try to turn into a game, like how high can this go? Like where can I take this? And then when you have like money as a scoreboard, like with like marketing stuff that we do with ads, like then it becomes like even cooler for me. Because ads is what I'm into. So
I think
yeah,
that's
just
how we were like raised too. Like, did your mom and dad, this is what my mom did. Like, she would make me sing things. She'd make me have like sequences and the ways to memorize things. Like, she'll be like, okay, it's 2, 4, 5, 6, or stupid, but like 2, 8, 5, 9, right? And then she'd be like, there's 2 bunnies going for 8, like the way that she would do it. So my brain would work different. I'm a Montessori kid too. So is that kind of how you did that as well? As you're like, this is gamified. I'm gonna fucking go, which goes into
yeah.
SaaS, by the way.
Yeah, no, it was, I think my mom had her own framework, and then there was a book, Moonwalking with Einstein, Josh
Ooh.
Waitzkin. And so, like inside of that, there was like this concept of the memory palace where it's like this physical space. And like inside, like for me, it was always like my high school. So if I was like trying to memorize a deck of cards, it'd be like, okay, it's like um, the Queen of Hearts in the front desk area, and it was like the front desk lady like dressed up as the queen, and so like you start to like build these kind of associations. And the reason why I picked that up was actually one of my buddies growing up. He had Asperger's, and he was the most intelligent human being ever. And he started telling me about this, and that was like his kind of framework. He had like a naturally high memory, but like that was his framework for memorizing things. And I was like, well, that makes like so much sense for me. Like I can visualize a physical space and like start to associate. So that was a big thing. And then I also like, I love alliteration. I love using sound to kind of memorize stuff. More often than not, if I'm listening to music, I'll listen to the same song like 85 times in a row.
Dude, we're the same person. I was
Yeah.
literally going to tell you this. My husband cannot stand it. If I listen to a song, I won't listen to any other song for a week straight because like that clicked. But it's also okay. But also with this obsessive types. And I'm so glad you're saying this. Now, obviously, like there's just a spark of caffeine coming through me. But like, when I've deduced it down to this, Sanjay. If there is a song that just gets my mind going or your mind going, I believe it's because very seldom do we find something that excites us. The type of person that you are is easily bored, not easily intrigued. But then when you are intrigued, you put everything in it because you just obsessive over it.
Yep.
And then when you're done, and then you move on to the next thing. That's so funny that you said that because I was holding on to that as one of my notes to tell you. I'm like, do you listen to the same song a million times over? And I also kind of get jealous of other people because, there's the types of people that have like this huge genre book of music that they've
Yeah.
memorized, like they know all the words to everything. I don't. But then if it's that one song, oh, I'll know it better than anybody else in the world. And yeah, no, I find you and I have a lot of similarities and parallels, which is probably why we get along so well. But I admire a lot of what you went through. And, you know, it's very difficult to find people that are self-motivated and who are self-motivated. How many, and I feel like also too, people who are listening, whether you're a founder, we have a lot of founders, a lot of agency owners on here. And then we have also a lot of like people from university that listen in. If you're trying to understand the difference, at least I've come to the conclusion, if you're trying to find the difference between someone who is like a Sanjay or somebody who is, you know, in an employee situation, I believe there's an employee mentality and there's a founder mentality. Employee mentality is always like, well, what are you going to do for me? This is what I deserve. This is, I should get this amount of hours, work-life balance, all that bullshit, which I still believe in work-life balance, but it's hard. Or you can be like a Sanjay where you're going to push past every single glass ceiling or whatever's in his way to get to what he needs to get to, but then still takes a step back and goes, I want to be a good person along the way. So it's asking for permission versus just taking it.
I got lucky. As intense as my relationship with my parents has been, they also did some great stuff with me. And I think one of the biggest things I think I got from my mom is just like always done like default, be a good person. My dad's literally a doctor. Like his job is to take care of people and make them feel better. It gets baked into him as well. And I'm really grateful that like that's always been like kind of the default. And again, another reason why you and I get along so well is like we always want to like help people, be good to people, be kind. I also grew up in Missouri, like in a tiny town in Missouri. So I don't know what accent y'all think this is, but this is 100% Midwest.
Indian.
And it's straight up Indian. Yeah, it's like but yeah, it's just. I think you can do both. Like I think you can like go like full founder mode. I think a lot of the discourse around like the founder mode stuff now is giving people permission to do. It seems like they're getting permission to do like the Steve Jobs bullying, which is like not really that productive. Because Brian Chesky references Steve Jobs, I think when he talks a lot about founder mode, and if you go read like even like the Isaacson biography, there's a bunch of stuff in there where people like, that you should not emulate. But regardless of what role you do, whether you work at a company or you run your own thing, ownership, right? Like true, just like ownership of your work, you got to have that. I think it's like a non-starter. I think life has given me the opportunity to just hang out with people that believe in that, which has been very nice. But take pride in what you do. Like at the end of the day, like if you wake up with air in your lungs, that's a gift. If you get to like go do stuff, even if it's not your favorite thing, or if it's solely for the purpose of getting you to that next stage in your life, like we've all had to do stuff, and there's always a chance that we'll have to go do stuff that we don't really want to do, or you probably always will if you're trying to build stuff. And just recognize that, hey, this is what it is. This is a season. I get to do this. I get to be here. I'm alive. Yeah, I think it's like, just be nice to people. Like it's not hard. It's really not hard.
Really not.
One of the best things I read recently on Twitter was someone said, flirt with the world. And I thought it was like such an interesting thing, because if you start doing that, you start smiling at people, you start asking how their day is, you just take an interest in them for no other reason, and you just like think it's cool. Like nothing has to come out of it. Like you don't have to get like more money or like whatever, like a promotion or anything like that. But I think just like putting that good out in the world will eventually come back. And even if it doesn't, like you put out good in the world, and that's something to take pride in. Like you have something to hold on to for that day.
Absolutely. Do you feel like, and this is kind of a new sparked question I think is important, is that failure that you shared with us, do you feel like it changed your DNA in a sense? And if it did, how that you apply today?
Yeah. In so many ways. I think one of the interesting things that it did to me was it showed me that I got like a bit of cockroach in me, in the sense that I'm like unkillable. Like no matter what happens, like I, like to be very, and I'll be very transparent. Like this is how dark it got. Like my parents are like not talking to me. I don't really know what my path in life is. I did try to end my own life, and there was a lot of like stuff that came about from that, and we're way better now. We're fine. Everything's good. But like coming out of it and like now looking back at it 10 years later, I do have this like sense of like, okay, like I am truly unkillable in the sense of like, my spirit cannot be crushed. And sometimes you have to go through these things to learn that about yourself. And it's allowed me to approach the world a lot more positively, and allowed me to approach myself, I think, a lot nicer than I used to. I think another thing is it forced me to sit and consider why my parents are saying the things they say, and kind of give them the grace to be their own people. And one of the things my cousin told me long ago growing up is like, our parents are just kids raising kids. And that perspective really shifted how I approach my parents. Like at the end of the day, they're trying to figure this out. They're doing a lot of this stuff for the first time themselves. And giving my parents grace, in the same breath, like I always expected grace from them and I wasn't getting it, but like starting to give them grace, I was able to get a lot more of that grace that I always wanted, from that, through that helped. And then the biggest thing from that failure that I think, took is like, man, this marketing thing, pretty fun. And I'm not bad at it. Like, I'm- and I'm like, I try not to be too, kind of chest thumpy, at least publicly. Privately, my girlfriend has to put up with me going nuts sometimes, but I do think like I'm a pretty decent marketer, and I take pride in my work, and I love it. I think this game is so awesome. I think we're all really lucky to be able to do it. But yeah, those are like the three things I guess, that came out of my failure.
I will say that the world is a much better place with you in it.
Yeah. Appreciate you, seriously.
Yeah, it's really hard to describe to other people the societal pressure and society being your family. And it's not a knock on your parents, man. Like, it's not
No.
what it is. It's what they learned and what you went through and what you guys healed from. That's a continuous cycle, and I have a deep respect for that. And I have a deep respect for your perspective because most people wouldn't take that perspective. The grace side, and it did change your DNA. I can see it. It made you kinder, probably. It made you a little bit more vulnerable. Also open to listening to other people's stories too. Our parents are just, I love that. It's like our parents are just kids raising kids. And I did hear a very similar quote and actually changed my relationship with my mom. My mom and we love each other dearly, but we were always butting heads. And it gets you to that point where you go, I'm not anything different. Like, I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
the world doesn't owe me anything. And, your parents are just doing their best. And we ended up being in marketing, which is such a cool place.
Yeah.
Like, we get to press buttons and make money. What the fuck is that? That's amazing.
Yeah.
And we get to meet each other and be on podcasts in the middle of the day when some other people are scraping grills, which sucks. So we're like doing other things, and there's no knock on that. It's an honest living, but like we get to do this. That's such an incredible blessing. We have air in our lungs. Like, what a blessing. So I very much appreciate you. And I guess, you leads me to the weirdest segue, but like, what is your hot take right now? Like, you want to get spicy and weird. What is your hot take, whether it be in the D2C world or whether it be just in life?
Oh man, I've got so many. Where do I start? Let's. mm, I think I'll probably contextualize this to like DTC specifically, but this might just be constrained to just like, I guess, working people, maybe not just life in general, but just like working folks. Um, I think most people aren't working as hard as they can be, me included, and I think most like TTC problems, like most problems in a e-commerce business, can be solved if you actually just work harder. And yeah, like it's tough. Like you can do 5 ads a week or you can do 75. Who's going to probably win? Like you can do, one small headline change in a landing page, or you can do a completely new test and iterate to the nth degree and like have a thesis for that. Like there's a level of effort I think that people should be putting in to get the results that they want. And people think that they're working hard. I'm not saying that they're not fully working hard, but I think the level that's required versus what you're actually doing, like that's the delta that you have to close. And it just requires being honest with yourself. So,
just be better.
yeah, that's right. And I'm like a big Palace Formosi guy. Normally, if I'm at home, I'm wearing a hoodie and I've got my Formosi hat. It's the thing he says all the time is like, do what's required. And so like, I think most people that are like struggling and like haven't made the progress in 2, 3, 5 quarters, that they want to make, they're just not doing what's required. They may be working hard, but they're not doing what's required.
Yeah, that's good. It's great. Also, doing enough is subjective, and we've realized that. Common sense isn't common. This is a beautiful segue to this. Every single job I was ever at, I was excited to meet my future mentor because they always tell you your mentors are going to teach you everything. It's going to be amazing. And then I get there and I'm like, my mentor is like drooling, like just idiotic to the nth degree, man. I'm just sitting there just like, I'm supposed to learn from you. And yeah, you have more experience, but like what? And I think I've only had 2 mentors that have been incredible people that I'm like, I still to this day am close with. But what I quickly realized is like, you are going to be your own standard of expectation, and whatever that is, outwork everybody else. And I think that's why you are where you are. And this is where I'm trying to build to where I want to be. And you have to set that level. And there are days that we catch ourselves, we're like, shit, I could have done so much more today. I just fucked off. And then you go and then the next 3 days, you're obsessive again and you feel the momentum. And there's a high in that momentum, but it's also with the cost, which I will say, you have to catch yourself and not to get so caught up with that you lose everything else and you lose yourself and you lose showering, which is what happens to me.
Same, actually.
Like I smell. When was the last time I showered? I don't remember it. That's a problem. But AdBeacon's doing really well, right? So that's like this caveat.
That's true. And, oh yeah.
But
We were writing lead magnets late at night. My girlfriend was like, have you eaten food today? And I'm like, it's been 2 days. But Celsius and Zen are all I need. Don't do that, kids. Don't get into that stuff. But
tell your girlfriend that if she takes all the Zen cartons from you, there's like a QR code on the back and she can actually get cash back.
I do it for her. Excellent.
I was going to do it to my husband. I was like, I need to get something from this bullshit. Because every time I do laundry, there's Zins popping out everywhere. And I'm like, this is stupid. What is this?
Ooh.
But anyway, we digress. I am so grateful, Sanjay, that you are here. And I'm so grateful for you to share your story. I know there's so many more stories, but how are people able to contact you? How can they find you, learn more about you, and support you?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. From the bottom of my heart, it means a lot to be on the other side of this. And ton of fun, truthfully. How people can find me, a lot of different ways. First one, Sanjay on Twitter, Sanjay at Play on Twitter and TikTok. You can follow me on Instagram. It's Corn Dog Billionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like real talk. That's what it is. LinkedIn, Sanjay Jenkins. I'm the only one. There was another one in Florida. She was a lovely Black lady. And she got married recently and her name changed, but she will not give me the Sanjay Jenkins Twitter handle. So yeah, Sanjay Jenkins, Facebook, LinkedIn, Sanjay at Play on Twitter and TikTok. Follow us on Replo, REPLO HQ on Twitter, on LinkedIn, Replo.app on the website. Book a call with us. We're happy to help you. Grow for free. So that's all the ways. That's every medium of communication.
Yeah, well, you obviously have a voice to Replo and you know who's on the other side. That's actually like a big part of this, right? So SaaS should have a face. I'm a firm believer in that. And now this is the face. So you align with Sanjay, I'm up, get a demo. There's nothing to lose, literally. Maybe money if you don't do it. Money if you don't do it. Hey, sanity if you don't do it, whatever. But yes.
We do 3 things: save time, save money, and make you more money. So that's the name of the game.
In threes, man. It's always a threes. Also, Sanjay Jenkins, lady who just got married. If you are listening, doubtful. If you are, release it. What are you doing? Give it back.
Had it since 2011. I have actually Facebook Messenger every 6 months for the last 10 years.
Dude, I graduated in 2011. What are you doing? What are you doing, Sanjay? Not you, the other one. Anyway, guys, what a great episode. I hope you enjoyed that treadmill workout. You're almost at that 45 mark. Please run your heart away. Until the next episode. Bye.